Hello! Hope the day's treating you well, and welcome aboard the Saab J32B Lansen. This is another one of those planes that you really don't see that often in War Thunder, and in its particular case, I can certainly understand why. You see, the Lansen has a rather rough history in terms of how Gaijin has tried to balance it over time since its initial introduction. For a while, it was actually at a battle rating of 10.0, up until fairly recently, which meant that it was completely uncompetitive since it faced constant up tiers to max BR. Now that it's back at 9.7, I'd say its battle rating is at the right place, but with its current repair cost of over 14,000 Silver Lions while stock, Gaijin really isn't incentivizing us to play this thing. Which is honestly a shame, because the Lansen is good. Really good. When I first saw the stat card on this thing, I thought, it's just a Swedish Hunter with half the ammunition. Big deal, right? But having flown both the Lansen and the Hunter, I can say with certainty that the J32B is in a class all of its own. The afterburning engine on this plane is monstrously powerful, giving it a climb rate of over 90 meters per second and an acceleration that leaves the Hunter in the dust. Also, unlike the Hunter, the Lansen is quite maneuverable despite its size, and can even dogfight MiG-19s if it's forced to. But there is one aspect that is the same for both the Lansen and the Hunter, and that is the insane destructive power of the quad 30mm autocannons. Speaking of which, this first game is an excellent field test. Damn, this plane feels good in a down tier. I will say, the 360 rounds on the cannons do go quite fast, but if you tap fire and don't settle the trigger out of frustration, it's still more than enough to secure an ace. But the Lansen has one other trick up its sleeve, one that's seen significant improvement in the most recent update. I'm of course talking about its missiles. Welcome to Update Red Skies, and welcome to stock missiles being a reality. This is, in my opinion, hands down the best change to come out of this update. If you want a full breakdown of exactly what planes get which stock missiles, I did do a full video, which I'll put a card of in the corner, but specifically, the J32B now gets 2 AIM-9Bs out of the box. I was actually planning on waiting until I got the AIM-9B module for myself before making a video on this plane because I wanted to review its performance with missiles, but now I can just mount half the missiles for free, so having 2 more isn't a huge game changer. This patch has also seen some significant changes in the layout of top-tier maps, including Korea and Ruhr, as you might have been able to tell from the placement of the airfield here. Personally, I enjoy the changes because it gives us a chance to see the scenery from a part of the map that was rarely explored in the previous setup, and also for Korea in particular, it makes lining up for landings easier since the runways are no longer perpendicular to the battlefield. But I digress. This game is an Uptier. In fact, most of the games I've played in the J32B since Red Skies dropped have been Uptiers and mixed battles because of the F5C spam. Now, in an Uptier, that means the Lansen has to fight some planes that are quite a bit faster than it, but thankfully, with the troop top-tier jets moved up to 11.0, even in a full Uptier to 10.7, the Lansen will no longer see the likes of Phantoms and top MiG-21s, which means it can always hold its own now. Though fighting F-104s and early MiG-21s is still a pain because of just how much faster they are, which you will see a lot of in this game. Overall, however, the Lansen's strengths and strategy remain the same even in an Uptier. The Lansen is a pure energy fighter. It keeps its speed extraordinarily well, even through maneuvers, and its powerful engine allows it to quickly capitalize on targets of opportunity. With the 30mm cannons, even the smallest of snapshots can secure you a kill, and the AIM-9Bs are just the icing on the cake, letting you fire and forget on easy targets while you maneuver on more difficult ones. Also, they're certainly great for catching people napping at the wheel. That's actually all the kills I managed to get in this game. Since I'm almost out of ammo, I end up running back to base to rearm, and the rest of the game is spent chasing down two F-104 starfighters who are playing extremely conservatively and keeping up their speed, which is smart of them, though frustrating for my team. I do manage to, let's just call it, maneuver kill one of them, though. So, while we watch me struggle to try and get a position where I can take a pot shot at one of these guys, let's discuss the weaknesses of the J32B. Honestly, there aren't that many, but they are rather prominent once you notice them. First of all, this plane doesn't have any trouble maneuvering at around 900 kilometers per hour, but its wings certainly don't like it. You can and will rip your wings off if you try to do barrel rolls or hard brakes at significantly past 900 kilometers per hour, though the plane is still somewhat flyable without a wing, but, you know, it's in your best interest to have both. Also, forget about the flaps on this plane. They're so weak that if you ever get down to the speeds at which you can actually deploy them, you're probably in a really bad situation and about to get shot down anyway. This thing is definitely not meant for stall fighting. Speaking of which, there are a few planes that can give you a really bad time in a 1v1 engagement. Generally speaking, anything that has a higher top speed than you and can also outmaneuver you at low speed is going to be a problem. You see this with things like the F-5C and the early MiG-21s. Thankfully though, these planes bleed a lot of speed when they turn, so you can sometimes just force them through a couple of turns to get them low and then just run away and let your teammates finish them off. The MiG-19 is a bit of a more difficult opponent because it just slightly outdoes you in both the top speed and low speed maneuvering departments. Your best bet with those is trying to force an overshoot at high speed. As for things like the Crusader, the Harriers, and the Yak-38s with better missiles, I advise keeping a close eye on your 6 because the Lansen isn't the best at dodging missiles more nimble than an AIM-9B. Another good strategy is to just stay out of the fight at the beginning of the match and wait for the enemies to get tangled up with their teammates. I do say this a lot, but specifically in the case of mid-tier jets, hopefully by then the most dangerous missiles will already have been fired off, especially with things like the Yak-38 that only have 2 missiles. That way you can be a bit more comfortable keeping enemies behind you as long as they're outside of gun range. But, speaking of dodging missiles, that's one way of making sure the missile doesn't hit you, I suppose. This last starfighter rushes off to their airbase to rearm and refuel, and this F5 and I chase it all the way over there. I was curious to see just how powerful the new airbase surface-to-air missile launchers are, and the results are interesting. For one, it seems like the missiles have some serious server latency issues, and for another, it seems the old strategy of having the air defenses be distracted by the first assailant and then allowing a second attacker to slip by still works. I don't doubt that Gaijin will be tweaking the airfield SAM mechanics in the coming weeks, but for now, just check out this missile spray. The Saab J32B Lansen is truly an apex predator. With its speed, maneuverability, energy retention, and excellent weapons, this is a plane that is certainly a joy to fly. Thanks for stopping by.